right, so welcome back to Navajo Tea Time. It is June, and I'm Kelsey.
And I am Adrienne, co host of Navajo Tea Time.
So, I guess the topic today is Father's Day and fathers. Since last month we did Mother's Day and mothers and stuff. Well, I guess we'll start with little small questions and build up. That seems easier for both of us to get into the topic. Um, I'll go first. Did you get along with your dad growing up? Were you a daddy's girl or anything like that?
hmm Um, I wouldn't really consider myself a daddy's girl, but I do have three sisters, and I did get along with him when I was younger. So I'm the firstborn. So when I was younger, he was in my eyes, the smartest, most intelligent, most handsome, ideal man in my life. That's kind of how I viewed him. I really did look up to him. And I knew him when he was in his 20s. I'm pretty sure he was 20 when I was born. So I've known him, from that age to the present. And I remember he was, he was really good dad, the kind of dad that interacts with his kids. You know what I mean? Like he would play games with us. He would take us out on little adventures. He would show us how to do things. Um, I remember him getting ready for work, and he used to wear a uniform, and he would iron all of his clothes and shine his shoes. He was really organized, really clean, very disciplined. He used to run every day. I would see him working out every day. And so that's just kind of how I knew him. So I looked up to him, and I did get along with him for the most part until I was probably in grade school. And I think that's kind of when you start to see your parents in a different light. And in my family, my parents didn't have the most perfect relationship. There was a period where it was really, really dark. And so for that reason, I kind of started to see another side of him that wasn't like this ideal, this idealistic um, father figure that was everything that the perfection, that gloss of perfection was gone, and the reality set in. And I started to get to know him as a person. And that was really interesting, especially as I got older. And over the years, I think we've formed that relationship where I see him now as an individual, not just as my dad. You know what I mean? So,
hmm
yeah. How about you?
I was definitely a daddy's girl because with my dad, there was only three of us: my older brother, me, and then my younger brother. So I was the only girl. And
Mm-hmm.
I definitely got away with a lot of stuff because I was a girl, especially, between my brothers. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and being from a family of divorce and my dad not being the main person who has custody, there's definitely that overcompensation of
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna buy you more things that you want because your mom's gonna get the stuff you need, and I want you to like me more
Mm-hmm.
because I don't get to see you often. There was definitely a lot of that with my dad. It's kind of hard for me to talk about my dad because he passed away. Trying to, so it's not so long ago, but it was a year before my daughter was born.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so he passed away then, and I've definitely had a lot of times to reflect on my dad and who he was as a person and who was as a father. I definitely wish he was here to see how my little one's grown up and all the things that, me and my siblings have accomplished. But I do definitely know I was a
Mm-hmm.
daddy's girl and he definitely did spoil me. But, sometimes I'm like, look, I deserved it. I took care of my siblings, so I deserve to be spoiled by my dad once in a while. like, sometimes we'd go on these, I guess, little father daughter dates. Because usually we just
Mm-hmm.
go down to the trading post and have dinner together, and it was nice, just to eat out with your dad and have that nice small moment. Sometimes I see posts where people are like disgusted by father daughter dates or mom son dates. But
Mm-hmm.
it's nice just getting an alone time, especially when you have a lot of siblings. It's nice to just
Mm-hmm.
have one-on-one
Yeah.
time without like it being like a date, but like just hanging out with your parental figures
Mm-hmm.
one-on-one
Mm-hmm.
is nice.
Yeah, I think it's just the term date that freaks people out. But other
But
than that, spending time with their kids is always good. Um, I remember when I was in junior high. You know, when you're in junior high and you kind of want like all the things your friends have. And I remember wanting to go shopping for a dress for this dance that was coming up. And my dad didn't have the money for it. And he was just like, you know, I don't know if we can do this. And I was like, please, So he was like, I don't know what he did, but he got the money and he took me shopping and it meant a lot. I got to buy a dress at the mall and I was just like, I don't know, it made me feel really special. And I remember when I was in cross country, he would train me to be the best runner I could be, like working out and stuff and doing drills. And that wasn't really this like he wasn't like a gentle coach. He was really like strict and mean when it came to training because he took it seriously, and he wanted me to do well. So that I remember doing that. And I actually think about it fondly now, as opposed to then. I'm just like, oh, I hate this. But now I think back and I'm like, I'm glad I had that. I'm glad that he was there to do that with me and to prepare me because who else is gonna do it? You know what I mean? So
I remember one time I was in college. I was in Illinois. It was my first year of college, and everyone around me like, "Oh, it's the fall. We need to go do our fall shopping and get all the fall trends." So they were all doing that. I was like, "Dad, can I have some money to buy some fall clothes?" It's like it was never a thing. Like there's like the first day of school shopping, and that's what you get for the rest of the school year. So I was like,
mm,
"Oh, it's fall shopping. I guess that's a thing." So I asked him, he's like, I don't have any money. I can't do that. I was like, okay, Dad. And I understood it. I fully understood what he was telling me. He didn't have the money to send me. It was just a frivolous thing. But I couldn't help but cry because that was the first time, literally, the first time he has ever told me no. Like, I was 18 years old, and that was the first time my dad's ever said no to me. And I understood it as an adult person. I know, like, okay, I know it's just something that can't happen. It's not plausible, but my little child brain's like, my dad told me no, I'm gonna cry, and I couldn't help it. I couldn't hide it in my voice while talking to him on the phone, and then I was like, "It's okay, Dad. It's fine. It'll be okay." But I couldn't help. I couldn't hide the crying in my voice, and then the next day, my dad's like, "Hey, go to the what they have. Like there's the Walmart, and then they had the Western Union inside the Walmart." So he's like, "Okay, go to the
mhm.
Western Union. I have $200 for you." And I'm like, "Oh no, I feel so bad," because he said he didn't have the money, and I had like you were saying, I don't know where he got the money from, but it was there, and I felt really bad.
Mhm.
And yeah, that just shows how much of a girly girl or daddy's girl I was. That the first time my dad told me no was when I was 18. Um, and even still then, he ended up, giving me money.
Kelsey, that's so funny. when I was growing up, my dad used to always say, "When you're 18, you're out. You can't live here. You need to get a job, start your own life." And my mom would always say, "No, no, you're always welcome to be here at home." But my dad was like, "No, we're not going to take care of you after you're 18." And I know that if it really came down to it, I know that I could stay. But I accepted the challenge. You know me, I'm the kind of person that's like, all right, I'll rise to the challenge. So when I graduated high school, I was 17. I worked over the summer. My birthday is in August. So I was like, I need to be out of here by August. So I worked all summer as a lifeguard, saved up all my money, and I moved to Flagstaff like right before my birthday. Like at the end of like when the summer ended, I was gone. I enrolled in school, moved to Flag, and I was so proud of myself. I would not call for anything. You know, I didn't want any of their money for rent, for food, for nothing. And it was hard, you know, like there were days when I was so hungry and so tired and I had nothing. And so I remember one day he came by to visit and he saw how I was living and he was like, "Hey, we don't hear from you enough." And he bought me a cell phone. And it was like the first phone I ever had. And he was like, "Here, you know," he was like, "if you ever need anything, you need to call me. Now you don't have an excuse. You know what I mean? You have to call me." So as the years went on, times came when I would call him and be like, you know, "I need food, I'm hungry, can you send me some money?" And he would always send it, and I would always be like, "I'll pay you back, you know, don't, you know, I'll pay you back." And he would always say, "No, I don't want your money, and I don't need your money, you know, I'm okay." And then there were times when I would need help with rent because I moved at first I moved in with some friends and we were sharing the rent. But after a year, I moved into my own place and I had to cover the rent on my own. And some months it was like, you're either going to eat or you're going to pay your rent. And so I had to pay my rent. So I'd be like super hungry. And I even made friends with this guy at the gas station just because he would hook me up with snacks. Like I didn't even like him, but I was so hungry. And he would let me get like whatever I wanted. It was so bad. So if you're watching this, thank you. But yeah, but my dad would like hook me up like that. And I remember one time I was talking with him saying, you know, "Dad, I really want to pay you back. You really helped me out over the years. I couldn't have done this without you." And he was like, "No," he's like, "don't pay me back." He was like, "One day you're gonna be approached and someone's gonna need your help. And I want you to show up for them, you know, you help them in any way you can." He's like, this is how we work together. You know what I mean? This is how we take care of each other. And I was like, okay, so that's kind of, yeah, that was a really good teaching for me, I think, because it's helped me in my life as I've gotten older. And now that I'm doing okay, it feels really good to be able to give back in different ways. So I do it not because this great person. I'm doing it because I do it because I'm keeping a promise to my dad, you know, that I would do that. It seems like fathers and dads don't get as much praise or enough praise as mothers do. Was that how you?
Well,
Is that what the
like,
topic was, or is it that?
kind of, yeah. I was like, I noticed like on social media specifically, there's like everyone praises a mom for doing all the work she does. Like they deserve the praise, obviously, but then there's
Mm-hmm,
more criticism on fathers than anything else that I see. Like there's a
mm-hmm,
majority of criticisms of fathers not being there, and you hardly
mm-hmm,
ever see any praise of dads who are there or who are single dads. And it's just sort of like that double standard of like, of course moms get a lot of praise. They do take a lot, like, depending on the mom, they do a lot of the nurturing and the caring and the schoolwork.
mm-hmm,
But there's not a lot of light shown on good fathers, I feel like, and there's more
mm-hmm.
light shown on bad fathers, and that can
Yeah.
definitely skew people's perspective on like how a father should be, because
Mm-hmm.
all they see are bad fathers, and it's really rare to see someone praising a father for doing a good job.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right, especially on social media. You know, there's a lot of moms out there that are angry with their baby daddies and they're just like really putting it out there for everyone to see. And then, of course, it starts this oftentimes goes viral in certain communities, especially like on the online yard sale pages.
Oh,
Have you seen this?
I don't read those. I'm like, if you're not selling
Oh,
anything, I don't care. But
so do you give a lot of praise in your family for the fathers in your family and for your daughter's father?
um when they're there, my family, my mom's family is notorious for not having good baby daddies, I guess. Um
Mm, hmm.
so when there's a good dad around, we definitely praise him. Like my husband, he does really good with Frankie and her schooling because I'll try to be there during her Zoom classes and help her, but all she wants to do is just snuggle up to me and be a baby and not pay attention during Zoom. So I can't be in the office with them, but he can sit there and does the schooling for her. So he takes over that role because she won't listen if I'm there. And it's really hard for me because I'm like, no, I gotta help her with her school. I gotta be a good mom and be there with her and teaching her, but she won't listen. So that's just something I have, like, okay, I have to let the dad do that job because it's not beneficial for the baby for me to
Hmm.
do that job.
Yeah, I think we should definitely, okay, so when they say that if you punish a person for bad behavior, sometimes that's not going to be, it's not the most helpful thing you can do. But if you praise people for good behavior, then what you're doing is you're kind of nurturing that behavior and you're making it more likely that it's going to be a repeated behavior, right? So I
Yeah.
wonder if, what if that became, you know, something that we committed ourselves to as women, to really praise the men who show up and they show up for their kids. I think sometimes even in a relationship where the mother and the father aren't together, the ability to still work with that person and be parents to your children and praise the father rather than tear him down all the time just because he pissed you off. I wonder if that would have a ripple effect in the lives of our children, because they get, rather than being pulled into the drama between you and that person, they're actually starting to see, the individuals working together, and they're hearing praise for the good things that he does. Because, I mean, I'm pretty sure there are dads out there that aren't just like doing the worst every day. I know there's times when people try, and sometimes when they try, they get shot down, like, oh, well, thank you for this one thing, but it doesn't make up for everything, and it's like, yeah, I'm just saying thank you, I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. I guess it's a positive reinforcement.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
kind of how I operate. I'm all about the positive reinforcement. Like if a dad is going to do a great job, I will straight up praise him. Like, you did amazing. Like, your kid's accomplishment was possible because of you. And I've noticed that they just fill up with pride. They're like all happy. They hold their heads up higher and they continue, to do that. And so that's something I'm all about, because I don't think tearing people down, because you don't know the reason why. They might have a problem, they might have an addiction problem, they might be depressed, they might just be going through a hard time, they don't have the money, so they can't show up even if they wanted to, and
Mhm.
I try to take all that into consideration, because I don't know, empathy is free to give, and free to have.
Yeah, I'm definitely trying to be more positive reinforcement with my husband because it's definitely not my baseline response, if you understand. It's not my default. It's something I have to actively, like, oh, you did a good job today, or like, thank you for doing this. It's definitely something I try to work on for
Hmm.
myself because I'm not the best at it. I, I'm my natural state is sarcasm, and
Hmm.
it's a lot of pointing out negativities or saying something negative with a positive twist or a positive with a negative twist, and that's
Hmm.
just who I am as a person. But I know definitely need to work on the positive reinforcements and it's something I'm actively trying to do,
Mhm.
and I know that's a fault with me. So that's something I'm working on for sure. And then definitely with our little one, like even if it's a normal task, it's like, "Oh my goodness, good job. You put the dishes away." Just saying
Mhm.
good job for normal things helps her feel more confident and better about them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think moms definitely deserve the praise. I think if we could start thinking about parenting as a win, being a parent is really hard, whether
Mhm.
you're a man or a woman. You know what I mean? It's super hard, it's super challenging. And to show up and be the best parent you can be, it's hard. It's not easy because you not only have to put food on the table, you not only have to entertain your kids sometimes, and give them a life that's, I guess, Instagram worthy. You know what I mean? You have to, you also have to like clothe them and teach them and guide them and be a good example. And it's really hard, it's super hard. And it takes away from what you're trying to accomplish for yourself. It takes away from your own needs as an individual. And it means you have to sacrifice a lot for them. And whether you're a man or a woman, that's just the reality of the situation. If you want those kids to thrive. So it's super hard. And if you don't have extra help too, like if you don't got the grandmas around or the aunts and the uncles, if you don't have cleaning people or babysitters, you know what I mean? It's freaking hard. And one thing I wanted to add to the conversation that I learned very recently, I was having a conversation with a colleague at work who's also a Hatathli, and we're talking about parenting. How has parenting changed over the past few centuries? And he was telling me that back in the day, the role of the grandparents was to raise the children. The role of the parents was to provide. The role of the uncles and the aunties were to show up and be there as guides. You know what I mean? They're supposed to be there to kind of like assist with the disciplining. They're supposed to be there to teach them things and guide them. It was a huge role that uncles and aunties played. And as things changed and we became more westernized and Americanized, we started to subscribe to these parenting models where we have to do it all. We have to do everything lands on our shoulders, even though that's not how, it's not even really possible to do it all. And I think we try to kind of modernize and like acculturate so that we become these modern American parents. But I think what a lot of us don't recognize is that a large portion of society, they they outsource for childcare. There's a lot of people, in order to have a career or to pursue their education, and if they have children, they have to outsource, whether it's childcares, whether it's having a nanny who lives with them or shows up multiple times a week. But that's a necessary part because they can't be there to do all that on their own. And so I think we hold ourselves up to a standard that's not really, it's not the best. It's not attainable in many ways. It's not set up for our success, our health, our balance, and our well-being. And I thought that was super interesting because I was like, that is so true. You know what I mean? If I know for a fact, if I had my mom and dad around to take care of my kids while I pursued an education and worked and provided, I know that would be so much easier. But having to do it all, it's hard. And it shows because, like, for example, when this pandemic hit and my kids are home, they learned how to cook and clean and take care of themselves and each other. But guess what suffered? Their school. You know what I mean? I did my best to hire tutors, but the fact that I wasn't home because I had to work, it really did show in their grades and in their ability to focus and be disciplined, because they're still kids. So I don't know, just something to think about,
Yeah.
something I learned recently that I've been thinking about and giving myself a lot of grace in the fact that, you know what, I'm doing my best and it might not be the best, but it's the best I can do and I'm trying. you know.
Yeah, I've seen that. Like my grandma, when I take her places and drive her to places, she'll talk about how her grandparents raised her, how her nullies raised her, how she lived with them while growing up. So she'd say,
Mhm.
like, in the Cameron area, a lot of the older people don't really know her because she didn't grow up here. She grew up like in Hushgun Valley area with her grandparents, and she'd talk about all the people she'd hang out with, her cousins, her siblings. But she didn't grow up with her mom
Mhm.
or anything until later on in life. She always lived with her
Mhm.
grandparents.
Mhm. Yeah, and that was a traditional role, you know, and that's why back in the day, a lot of people had a really close connection with their cousins because guess what? All the cousins were at grandma's house, you know, and the parents were away. They were working, they were traveling, they were doing what they needed to do to provide for their families, bring in that money, you know.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. So, speaking about
Yeah.
fathers and Father's Day, what about Nellies? Because I feel like my experience with Nellies is they're less like the strict grandparents or less like the strict Che and more like the
Mhm.
ones who spoil you. That's been my experience. Like my Nellies, like you've heard, my dad spoiled me rotten. So my Nelly, I only have my Nelly lady because just stuff. But so my dad never grew up with his own biological father. So it was always just my
Mhm.
Nelly lady, and she spoiled us. Um, my mom says it's because she didn't expect my dad to have any children. So when we came along, we were like the biggest blessing and joy she could have. So she always spoils us so much. What are your experiences like with your Nellies?
I'm not close with them. Chanel Hestine passed away about, I think, almost 10 years ago now. Was not close with him at all. Um, I was actually afraid of him, so I didn't like to be around him. Chanel Eston, she didn't seem to have a lot of interest in her grandkids, so she wasn't like this warm, loving grandma, you know. So I didn't really have a close relationship with her. Now that she's older, though, I do have a lot more sympathy, I think, because before I was like, well, if you don't want to know me, then why should I try to know you? You know, that was kind of my attitude for a long time. But now she's getting older. Now I'm kind of like, I check up on her. One time I went to her house on Halloween and I was like scratching her windows,
Give that old lady
scared.
a heart
And
attack.
then she came to the door and I'm like, Happy Halloween. And she was like, oh my God. So I'm not the best either. But my closest relationship was with Masena and Che. So I loved my Che like so much. And he totally spoiled me. Like I loved him so much. And he passed away when I was very young, though. So I only knew him for a short period. But from the time that I did know him, like I still remember him. I still remember running to him and giving him hugs. I used to always wear my hair in pigtails and he used to kind of like play with my hair. I remember like just interacting with him and his energy was always really good and kind and loving. And um, I still think about him all the time. You know, I miss him a lot. I wish he could have been here to meet my kids. You know, I wish he could have been here to just see what I've become. You know, but and like Masena, I really respected her. She was a strict grandma, and she didn't spoil us, but she took really good care of us. You know, she was like, there was never a doubt in my mind that she loved us and accepted us. You know what I mean? And that she wanted us there and she appreciated us. And so I had a really strong relationship with them, but unfortunately they both walked on, and so they're not with us anymore. But my Nellia's son, she's still here, and I think I'm trying to build that relationship, but it's hard because it's like I don't really know her, you know, and it's just difficult. Yeah, but it's cool that you have a good relationship with your Nellies. That's awesome. That's
Yeah,
important.
I think it's like with me and my family, I have these weird segments of family. Like I
Mm-hmm.
have my Nellies, And then
Mhm.
I have my mom's family because they're Navajo, and they have their customs and they're all together. And then I have my mom's dad's family, which are of German descent. And
Mhm.
so I have these pockets of family because
Mhm.
they don't all intermix, and I don't interact with them the same way for sure. One thing I
Mhm.
did want to mention on my dad's side is he has a younger brother, and he doesn't have any children. And my dad was an alcoholic. I'm not ashamed to say it, and he knew it, he understood it. He got his license taken away, and he never bothered to get it back because he
Mhm.
knew he wasn't going to stop drinking enough to be sober to drive.
Mm.
So
Wow.
that's his mindset. He's like he's an alcoholic. He's unapologetically so. But my uncle, he was like, so I guess growing up, I had these two dads. I had my dad who never told me no, and then I had my uncle who told me to get up in the morning, wash the dishes, clean the house, help around. So
Mhm.
obviously, like growing up, when you visit your dad for the weekend or for the summer, you don't want to be doing the chores you would do at home. And
Mhm.
so my dad's brother, my uncle, he'd be like, "Hey, no, you got to help with the dishes. You shouldn't have your grandparents over here washing all the dishes you make. Use one cup and use, well, it, being an adult now, it's like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. But like when you're a spoiled little kid, you're like, you're not my dad. Stop talking to me. Um, but I definitely appreciate the discipline he tried to instill in us as we grew up. Because
Mhm.
clearly my dad wasn't really disciplining us.
Mm.
Um, and he tried to fill that role. And then my dad would get mad at him. He's like, hey, those aren't your kids. If you want kids to punish, go have your own. But
Mhm.
they didn't really have the best relationship
Mhm.
um, growing up or when they were adults either. But that's a whole
Yeah.
nother topic. That's not mine to talk about.
Well, sounds like he cared enough though to show up, and try to be a good uncle, and
Yeah, my uncle
that's
cares about us a
cool.
lot. He lives with my nullies now. He helps out with the cattle, especially since my um he's not biologically not my nully man, but he's the only nully man I knew. He passed away
Mhm.
this winter or the spring. So he takes care of the cattle for my nully and goes out there every day to bring them water.
Mhm.
And every time we go visit them, I always tell Frankie, I'm like, "Hey Frankie, this is your Che Dyrens, your grandpa." She's like, "My grandpa." She only has so many grandpas, so she gets really
Mhm.
excited when she sees one.
That's cute.
hmm
Wow.
So I definitely appreciate him and all he's done for us growing up, and then after
Mhm.
my dad's passed away, he's definitely been there for us. He
Mhm.
still carries on that whole like if I call him and ask him for something, he's there at the drop of a hat, which I try not to use
Mhm.
often. Like I'm very aware of how spoiled I am, so I try not to take advantage of it. Um, so
Oh my goodness. My Nelly did something so cool. So I was telling my family that we're preparing for my daughter's kingdom death. It hasn't happened yet, but we're getting ready for it. And she went to the Cameron Trading Post and bought her this beautiful sash belt. And that like made me almost tear up. I was like, good job. Because she never really showed up before. And it was so cool that she did that. So I don't know. I love it when people show up for their family, when you ask like, "Hey, I need help here." And they're like they just do it, it's cool.
yeah,
So yeah. So, Father's Day. How are you guys going to celebrate Father's Day?
it depends on what her Head Start's doing because the day after Father's Day, they're
Oh.
having their Head Start promotion. Um,
Mm.
so we might just have a cookout. Maybe we'll go to Flag and disc golf. He loves playing disc golf.
I was thinking of maybe taking instead of staying here and having like a cookout or a dinner, I was thinking of maybe going out to I don't know, maybe Flagstaff also. or maybe down to Sedona. The whole thing is just like, how do you get all the kids together to do something with their dad? You know what I mean? That's like my whole thinking about it, is like, how do we get them all together and do something without everyone complaining and having a fit?
It's funny how like you're trying to focus Father's Day on doing something with your dad instead of like, oh, how can we make him have a day off? You know, like how Mother's Day, oh, it's just a spa day. Let's relax,
Yeah.
let's chill, let's get away from the kids. And then Father's like, oh no, spend time with your dad. And
Yeah, because it's the reason why is because he works a lot. You know, he works a lot. We rarely actually, I mean, we have to plan if we want to spend quality time with the kids. You know what I mean? And he's so busy. Like right now, he's working. He's doing a writing project right now, and we have the kids here, but like he's in the room working. I'm in here, and they're just kind of doing chores. So I try to like, I have to plan fun things to do so that we can build, like, create new memories that the kids will take with them when they scatter to the wind when they turn 18.
you should make the kids all like the spa people. Like one rubs lotion on his feet, the other's massaging his shoulders, the other one's pouring him a little drink.
Have the little ones walk on his back.
There you go. The older one's doing a facial for him.
Oh, that's a good idea. We should do that.
I think one of the last Father's Day I had with my dad, I was just hanging out up here, and then we drove on top of we drove to Grand Canyon. He just wanted to spend the day with me because my brother was at school. My other brother, I forgot where he was, but he was in the military, so he wasn't around to just hang out. So I
Mm-hmm.
just drove around. We just drove around. I drove because he doesn't have a license, obviously. And we go around Grand Canyon, and then he took me to this one spot that had like this tower, like this, like one of those ranger towers. I don't know how well, it was probably one of his party days where he found it, but he knew exactly where we were going, to how to get there and everything. So it was just nice spending that day with him driving around. We went to like the Tucson Museum at the Grand Canyon. I didn't even know they had a museum there. I feel like sometimes we live near these national parks and monuments, and we don't really go to them. It's like, oh yeah, we live right next to the Grand Canyon. I visit it maybe once every 3 years because it gets so full of people.
Really?
Yeah, I don't visit it often. It's so full of people. So many people. It's like I could just go to a different place and see the exact same thing without all the people here. All right, so keep an eye out on our
Mm-hmm.
social media for the 75-mile challenge for the ends at the end of June. July ends at the end of July. And we'll
Mm-hmm.
have more details on the post.
We hope everyone has a safe and happy Father's Day weekend this month. And if you're interested in our challenge, stay tuned. We'll be announcing all the details over social media. And
Yep.
don't forget to use the hashtag Navajo Tea Time.
Yep. You guys have a good day. Stay cool.
Oh, 'cause we're dying the right